Vikings fans, we got a full video coming up in just a moment, but we want to hit you with this question first. Will the Vikings make the playoffs this upcoming season? Simple yes or no. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Will Minnesota be playing in the postseason after a year off last year? Get your votes in, and let's jump in to today's show. Vikings fans, welcome into Minnesota Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'm Harrison Graham, and I thought on today's show we would take a look at 10, count them 10, players in free agency that Minnesota could still go out and sign before the draft, which of course looms in 1 week. Currently, the Vikings have just under $11 million in cap space, so they got some room, they got some wiggle room to go out and make a move or two. So let's take a look at some guys that could go out and get. A name that's been popular among Vikings fans is JC Tretter, who remains as the top center on the open market. Minnesota needs to add a player at that position, and JC Tretter is one of the better ones in the NFL. Pro Football Focus graded him as the 6th best overall center last year, so he's certainly worthy of being a starter somewhere. I am a bit surprised that he remains unsigned. I know there's been some chatter of his role as the NFLPA president, that maybe some teams don't want to deal with him, but at the end of the day, good players are good players, and he certainly would fit the bill for Minnesota. Who is your top free agent target for the Vikings still? Obviously, free agency has been ongoing for well over a month, but who's one guy you would still like to see Minnesota sign before the draft? I want to hear from you guys right now. I think tight end is a sneaky good position that Minnesota could add some pieces at. How about bringing a former name back to town? Kyle Rudolph, who in 10 seasons, his first 10 seasons with the Vikings, was great. 10 yards a catch, 48 touchdowns, 4,500 yards. He's certainly past his prime, but as a depth number 2 type of tight end, a guy who could, go catch 40 passes for you, maybe, 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think you can do worse than Kyle Rudolph. He's a good blocker. He's not what he was, but I still think he can be a rotation tight end. How about Jared Cook, who would certainly fit the bill better as a pass-catching tight end than Rudolph would at this point? He's played in a lot of places, played last year with the Chargers. I still think he's good. He can work the seam. Still young enough to give you some big plays off play action from Kirk Cousins. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Tyrann Mathieu, who clearly remains as the top free agent safety on the open market. I believe he's going to have a lot of suitors. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, New Orleans among the teams that have shown interest. Mathieu would be a lot of fun in Minnesota. I think he and Harrison Smith would be a fun combination. You can kind of move those two guys around. They can both do several different things. They can drop back into coverage. They can play in the box. They can play man coverage if needed as well. This would be maybe the best safety tandem in the NFC North, if not in all of the NFL. Okay, Landon Collins. You want to go a little bit cheaper. Collins, a solid option. Signed that big contract with Washington, which was a complete overpay, but he's still good for a cheap 1 or 2 year deal. I think you could do a lot worse than Landon Collins if you are Minnesota. If Tyrann Mathieu is going to be out of your price range, maybe a guy like Landon Collins could make a little bit more sense for Minnesota, but we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. All right, Vikings fans, help us get to 4,000 subscribers. Would love to get there before the NFL draft starts, but let's at least get there by the end of the draft. Less than 500 away. You see the link below. Share that link with all your friends. YouTube.com/Vikings today. Tell them to smash that sub button. And for those of you who haven't, please subscribe for more free videos. All right, let's go to elsewhere in the secondary. Joe Haden, longtime cornerback with the Browns and then the Steelers. He's 32. He's getting a little bit older, but still a good player, and I think Minnesota needs more help at corner. You brought back Patrick Peterson. You've got Cameron Dantzler, but I think a guy like Joe Haden could come in here, give you some quality snaps, and be a guy that could help bolster the position and be a leader at that spot in the secondary. Chris Harris, also a guy getting a little bit older, has some nickel outside hybrid ability. You can move him around a little bit. Past his prime, but I still think a guy that can start if you need him to on a year-to-year basis at this point. But I thought he did some good things with the Chargers last year. Be interested to see where he ends up signing in this free agency period. The NFL Draft, like we mentioned, it is almost here. It's a week away from today, at least round one is. And Chat Sports, our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, youtube.com/chatsportstv, will be live for all 7 rounds of this year's draft. So subscribe over there. Join us. Turn on your notifications at Chat Sports, and we'll be live for all 7 rounds for over all 3 days of this year's draft. So tap in, lock in, and we'll have you covered this year. One more corner, Xavier Rhodes, another familiar name, kind of like Kyle Rudolph. Now, Rhodes last year and a half in Minnesota, we all thought he was washed. He did not play well at all, which is why the Vikings moved on. But then he kind of bounced back with the Colts. He kind of revitalized his career in Indianapolis, so I think bringing him on board could be pretty interesting for Minnesota. I don't think he'll cost a lot of money. He could come in, compete for a chance to start. If not, he's at least a quality veteran to have around as well. Always been a good locker room guy, so I was pleasantly surprised how he played in Indianapolis the past 2 years. Maybe bring him back on a 1 or a 2-year deal. Now, what do you think the Vikings should do at corner? You think they should sign or draft one? Type S for sign, type D for draft. I could see them doing both as well. Let us know if you had to pick one avenue, which one would you rather see Minnesota do? Akiem Hicks from the Chicago Bears, as he's still a free agent, kind of a defensive tackle, defensive end hybrid. I think he's mostly an interior guy at this point in his career. When healthy, still a quality pass rusher, good run stopper, but he has missed 19 games over the past 3 seasons. There was some chatter earlier in the offseason that maybe he and Minnesota would have mutual interest. That never met to fruition at the time. Maybe that could happen at some point in the next week. How about Julio Jones? As Minnesota is in a good spot at receiver with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. I like KJ Osborne as well, but you could throw a dart at Julio for cheap to see if he can come in there, be a deep vertical type of threat. I wouldn't mind that at all to give Kirk Cousins another weapon. Don't ask KJ Osborne to take some huge leap this upcoming year. I think Julio could come in and, see if he can prove it to you that he can still play at a high level. When he's healthy, I still think he's good. I don't think he's dominant like he was for about 8 years, but I still think he has a chance to play some good football over the next couple of years. So there you go. Those are 10 players that the Vikings could go out and sign in NFL free agency. I'll ask you guys this question one more time. Who is your top free agent target for the Vikings? Let us know in the comments. I think JC Tretter makes a lot of sense, but we will see what happens on that front. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Be sure to subscribe for more videos leading up to the NFL draft. I'm sure we'll try to do one more mock draft for the Vikings early next week, so be out on the lookout for that as well. Until then, we're signing off here on Vikings Now.